Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like, and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I never planned the weekend to mean anything. It was supposed to be quiet, harmless, almost nostalgic. A coastal town, a spare guest house, two adults pretending history could be folded neatly away. I told myself it was platonic. I repeated that word until it sounded like truth to me then. My old flame was Daniel, someone I once loved before life scattered us in different directions. We hadn't spoken in years until a message arrived, polite and casual. Coffee became dinner. Dinner became a plan. I told my partner everything, or so I believed at the time back then, honestly. My partner, Mark, trusted me with a steadiness that sometimes felt heavier than jealousy. He asked questions but never accused. When I said Daniel and I were just reconnecting, Mark nodded, kissed my forehead, and told me to enjoy myself. That trust followed me like a shadow the whole time. The guest house overlooked gray water and weathered docks, the kind of place where time slows down. Daniel arrived first, smiling too easily, like no years had passed. We hugged, brief but familiar. I noticed how quickly my body remembered him, even when my mind protested quietly against my better judgment. The first night was safe, almost boring. Wine, laughter, stories edited for politeness. We spoke about careers, disappointments, who we had become. He slept in the spare room. I lay awake listening to the sea, convincing myself restraint was proof of maturity, not fear or temptation disguised as reason maybe. Morning brought comfort and danger in equal measure. Coffee on the porch, shared jokes, familiar silences. Daniel mentioned old memories casually, like he was testing which doors were still unlocked. I laughed, but inside something stirred, warm and reckless, asking questions I avoided and pretended not to hear yet clearly. By the second evening, lines blurred without being crossed. Or maybe they shifted quietly. He touched my arm when he laughed. I didn't pull away. I told myself proximity wasn't betrayal. That intention mattered more than instinct. The justification stacked neatly, fragile as glass balanced carefully until pressure found cracks. That night, I dreamed of Mark. Not passion, not anger, just his voice asking if I was okay. I woke with guilt pressing hard against my ribs. Daniel knocked softly to ask if I wanted breakfast. I said yes too quickly, like an apology I hadn't spoken aloud yet before. Late afternoon, as clouds thickened, Daniel suggested a walk along the shore. We talked about endings, about roads not taken. He stopped once, looking at me with something unspoken. I felt the moment stretch, waiting for one of us to move or shatter everything we were pretending remained intact still. That was when my phone vibrated. A single message from Mark. I finished early. It read, "Thought I'd surprise you." My stomach dropped. Before I could respond, another message arrived, colder this time. "I'm outside." The air seemed to drain from my lungs as dread replaced every careful excuse instantly. I stood frozen while Daniel watched my face change. I didn't explain. I couldn't. Through the window, I saw Mark's car pull in slowly, deliberately. He wasn't alone. The passenger door opened first, and someone stepped out, someone I never expect to see there, especially not with Mark that day. Daniel whispered my name, confused, uneasy. I raised a hand, silencing him. My heart pounded with recognition and dread. Mark walked toward the door, his expression unreadable. The person beside him smiled faintly, like this moment had been planned long before I arrived here, and before I understood of it. I suddenly realized the weekend hadn't been as private as I assumed. Mark's trust, my silence, Daniel's timing, all converging. The doorbell rang once, sharp and final. I took a breath, knowing whatever waited on the other side would change everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and consequences. I stepped forward as Daniel moved back instinctively. Mark's knock came again, heavier this time. I reached for the handle, my reflection warped in the glass. I wondered which version of myself would open that door, and which one would be left behind forever once truth entered the room quietly. The handle turned slowly. I didn't know yet who stood with Mark or why he brought them here. I only knew the lie I'd wrapped in the word Platonic was about to unravel, thread by thread, leaving nothing hidden, and no one untouched when the door finally opened for us. The door opened, and there stood Mark, calm and composed, with Emily beside him. Emily, my younger sister. The air vanished from the room. Her smile wasn't cruel, but it wasn't kind either. It was the kind of smile someone wears when they already know the ending and have decided to watch anyway. Mark stepped inside, without waiting for an invitation. He looked around once, taking in Daniel, the guest house, the half-packed bags. "Hi," he said, polite as ever. "I hope we're not interrupting." His voice was steady, which somehow hurt more than anger would have. Emily followed him in, folding her arms. "Relax," she said. "We're not here to make a scene." Daniel finally spoke, asking who they were, but Mark raised a hand gently. "It's okay," he said. "I know exactly who you are." That's when I understood. This wasn't a surprise. It was a confirmation. Mark turned to me. "I didn't come because I didn't trust you," he said. "I came because something felt off. And when I trust my instincts, I bring facts." Emily exhaled, like she'd been holding her breath for days. "She called me," she said quietly, 2 weeks ago, asked if this was a bad idea. I stared at her, betrayal cutting deeper than anything Daniel could have done. "I just wanted advice," I said weakly. Emily nodded. "That's what you said. But advice turns into permission when you ask the wrong person." Mark continued for her. "She told me everything. Not to hurt you, to keep me from being blind." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "Nothing happened," he said. Mark looked at him then, not angry, just tired. "That's not the point," he replied. "Intent matters. Secrecy matters. And choosing to be here mattered." Daniel nodded once, accepting a verdict he couldn't appeal. Mark faced me again. "I trusted you because you were honest," he said. The moment honesty became selective, trust stopped being unconditional. I felt tears burn, but they didn't fall. "I never meant to hurt you," I said. He smiled sadly. "I know. That doesn't undo it." Emily touched my arm, gently this time. "I came because he asked me to," she said. "He didn't want to accuse you. He wanted witnesses. Truth survives better that way." The room felt smaller, crowded with clarity. Daniel excused himself quietly, retreating to the spare room, leaving the mess where it belonged. Mark picked up his keys. "I'm not here to fight," he said. "I just needed to see it. Now I have." My heart pounded. "Is this over?" I asked. He paused. "Not today," he said. "But something ended before this weekend. I just didn't know when." They left together. The sound of the car pulling away felt permanent. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the door, replaying every justification I'd made. Platonic, harmless, innocent, words that collapsed when examined too closely. That night, I packed alone. Daniel didn't try to speak. There was nothing left to say. On the drive home, I realized the trail isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet choices made repeatedly, each one small enough to excuse, until they form a path you can't deny walking. Mark and I did talk later. We didn't scream. We didn't beg. We acknowledged damage honestly. Some trust can be repaired. Some can't. What mattered was that I finally understood something simple and brutal. Loyalty isn't tested in temptation. It's tested in the moments you decide whether transparency is optional. I went home without either of them. And for the first time, I didn't feel misunderstood. I felt responsible.